G'day and welcome back to the vlog for another day. I've got some stuff today I wrote down. I'm going to start things out a bit differently today because I've been talking about regulations, and I'll get on to regulations in a moment, but something I spotted on the net that made me chuckle. Now, there's a website called Grammarly.com, and oh man, they've been thrashing the YouTube ads. Every video for weeks, for months actually, that I went to look had this Grammarly.com pre-roll ad, and it's a website that promises to fix up your grammar mistakes, check, proofread what you write, and make sure you get everything dead right. So I was somewhat amused when I saw the Grammarly.com YouTube pre-roll ad. Here is a screenshot at the beginning of that advertisement. Now, tell me, do you see anything wrong with this screenshot, with the ad itself? Now, look down the bottom there. Look in the small writing. Actors portrayal. There's supposed to be an apostrophe in actors because it is the position of the actor. It is the actor's portrayal. So what a bad ad for this product. The product that's supposed to make sure your grammar is 100% correct has a grammar mistake in it. How embarrassing for them. Oh, man. Anyway, that's a little chuckle to start things off. Right, first thing. The media. Oh, God, don't get me started on the media. It's turning into a rant, isn't it? Don't get me started on the media. There was a news report. If I can find it, I'll put a little thing up here. There was a news report about some guy who wanted stronger regulation after he was injured by a drone. Well, actually, it turns out I think it was his friend's drone, and they went out to fly it, and this guy stuck his hand in the propellers. The picture looks like an Inspire, DJI Inspire, which has got some pretty big props. And as that young Iglesias guy will testify, you shouldn't put your fingers in the props of an Inspire when it's flying or when the props are spinning. You'll get badly cut hands. And there's pictures in this report of the guy's hands all sliced up. Well, excuse me, but no amount of regulation is going to fix stupid. And I think this guy clearly was rather stupid in what he did. But he's calling for regulation. The media are right behind him, of course. Oh, we're going to regulate these drones. This guy's hurt himself. A drone has hurt this guy. Well, this guy shouldn't be allowed to be around sharp things, power tools, or anything like that. He's just, really, seriously. What else have I got in here today? Oh, yes, Team Black Sheep. They've released their... Well, it's not a sense... What is a sense and avoid system for the Crossfire? Now, this is really interesting. In my workshop here, I have an antenna on the outside which is connected to a software-defined radio which picks up FLAM broadcasts. What are FLAM broadcasts? Well, there'll be a link in the description of this video. You can go and have a look for yourself. But basically, a FLAM system is a little transponder that goes in. Initially, it was gliders. A lot of gliders have FLAM transponders. A little transmitter. And it sends out a little signal saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm here, I'm here. And it gives the GPS coordinates so that other people with FLAM systems will be receiving those pings. And if the software in the receivers works out, oh gosh, this guy's a bit close, it'll put a little alarm up, little beep, little red lights flash on the dashboard of the aircraft, and so you know it's a collision avoidance system. That's what it is. It's an active, what we call an active collision avoidance system. That is, it will only protect you from colliding with other craft that have the same system fitted. So it won't stop you from colliding with an aircraft that doesn't have FLAM, but it will provide you with information on other aircraft that do. And as I say, gliders were the primary users of the FLAM system because there were quite a few mid-air collisions with gliders or near misses in parts of Europe. So the guys that came up with this idea, let's make a transponder-based system to protect gliders. Now, if you go to a website called glidernet.org, you'll be able to see almost every FLAM-equipped aircraft in the world that is flying will be on that website. It's like you've seen Flight Radar 24, which has all the commercial flights. This is the same sort of thing, but only for FLAM-equipped aircraft. So go and have a look, and you'll see there's an awful lot of FLAM-equipped aircraft. If you look at the TBS video on their FLAM-enabled Crossfire system, you'll see, wow, that's pretty damn cool. But you have to be careful. It's I don't know, it's one of those things. It's not a substitute for vigilance. It's not a substitute for good practice because I always am a little concerned about these things because they tend to make people feel a little bit too overconfident at times. Oh, I don't have to worry. I've got this sense and avoid system on my FPV model. I can fly long distances and I'll be able to see planes. Well, only if they have a FLAM system on board. And to be honest, only a very small percentage of recreational aviation has FLAM on board, and virtually no commercial aviation has FLAM on board. So it will help you in an area where there's lots of gliders or where FLAM has been widely adopted, but I wouldn't expect to rely on it. I'd still be having an aircraft radio, I'd still be having spotters, I'd still be checking the NOTAM so I knew what was happening in the area where I was flying. But hey, it's a good step forward, and TBS are to be commended for actually doing something positive, using technology in a way that will increase the safety of FPV, so long as people understand the limitations. There you go. And for those who have asked, yes, I've already mentioned in a previous vlog about my sense and avoid system, and I'll be trying to put some videos up. As soon as the weather improves a little bit, I'll do some little testing, and I'll show you what my system does, because mine has an active component, like the FLARM system, and a passive component. So it'll pick up things that don't have transponders, which is really important, because that's most of the aircraft around here, and certainly a high percentage of aircraft worldwide. So it'll even pick up flocks of birds. How good is that? So if they'd had that on the Hudson River, what is it, US aircraft, who knows what would have happened? Right, moving along, got some more stuff to look at here. What have I got here? Oh yes, this is terrible. This is disastrous news. If you've got a DJI Spark, look out. It might fall from the sky. There's a few people have been reporting they're having some problems with the Spark. That's the gesture-controlled drone that DJI put out. The one that it follows you around, and you can use it without a transmitter. How cool is that? The problem is that there are a few bugs in it, apparently, by the look of it, and some of them may be related to a software update. It may have forgotten your Wi-Fi password. So if you take off and you're gesturing, and then you go to bring it down with the app, there's no talking because it's forgotten your password. So you need to be very careful. Have a look at that. Keep an eye on what DJI are doing. And some might say it's just bad karma. Who knows? Yes, there is a joke in there somewhere. Now, those of you who watch my RC Model Reviews channel will know that I've reviewed the Eachine Wizard X220S, and I gave it a bad review because it's a bad product. Now, I've already mentioned this on RC Model Reviews. A lot of other reviewers said, wow, this is fantastic. It's a great drone. It's got power. It's, blah, 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 high spec. Fortunately, I just looked at the realities of the situation. It's got a glass carbon frame, not a full carbon frame. Go look at the review if you want to see what's going on. And I've noticed now an increasing number of people who previously published good reviews, it's fantastic, have gone back a bit. And they've actually had things like the guys at Grayson Hobbies. They broke 2 arms on theirs, and they've recommended throwing out the standard receiver, and they've recommended making modifications and things. So it's no longer, they actually, as they say, you've got to pull the whole thing apart to put it back together properly and make it good. So although it's a cheap mini quad in terms of what you get on paper for the price you pay, it's not a cheap mini quad because it's a kit of parts, which some of the parts are no good. You'll be able to use them in other quads and things. You can replace the new arms with the old arms. But so fortunately, people are waking up. Now, I was onto it pretty quickly right from the get-go, but other people are also now waking up to that. It's not a good quadcopter. It's not a good quadcopter. So there you go. I haven't heard from Eachine since I published that review. I think I'm off their Christmas card list. Oh, well, that's the risk you take, isn't it? Now, what else have I got on my list? I recently watched a movie called Reach for the Sky. It's about Douglas Bader. Bader? I don't know, I can't remember. He was an English aviator who learned to fly in the 30s, I think. And then when he had an accident when he was learning to fly, lost both his legs, both legs amputated. And so he thought he'd never fly again. But with perseverance, he actually went into the armed forces, into the Air Force, and he became a World War II fighter pilot ace. I think at one stage he had 3 or 5 squadrons under his command, and he accounted for many 109s and German aircraft and dogfights. He's really a really competent flyer, especially considering he had no legs. Anyway, in the movie, I heard a really, really good quote, which is one that I'll share with you because I think it's important because I'm going to talk about regulations now. You knew I had to do it, but okay. Whenever we're looking at regulations, bear the following in mind. And this is a quote from the movie Reach for the Sky. And the quote is, rules are for the guidance of wise men and the obedience of fools. And that's true. I'm not saying you shouldn't follow the rules. I'm saying that rules are never going to be the only way to achieve safety. Sometimes things that are within the rules are not safe, and sometimes things that are safe are outside the rules. There's no clear rules cannot define safety because they're a broad set of principles and restrictions based on trying to cater for every circumstance, and you can't do that. You can't cater to every circumstance. So the only way to be safe is to make a judgment on the day, at the time. And sometimes that may mean that even though the rules say you can do that, you shouldn't do it because you may be endangering personal property. Remember my drone rules, never endanger person or property. That's the number 1 drone rule. Never do that. And as long as you never endanger personal property, then you're safe, right? And don't fly above 400 feet because GA is up there. Manned aircraft are up above 400 feet. So stay below 400 feet. Never endanger personal property and we're all good to go. Registration, come on, seriously? That's not going to make any difference. Sitting tests, well, after my last vlog, I had a bit of a think actually, and I thought, maybe there's actually some validity to these new rules that are being proposed in places like Canada and the UK. Maybe people should sit a test. Maybe people should have to prove that they know what they're doing. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, let's go back. Drones have never killed anybody. And although some people have been injured by stuffing their hands into the props of a DJI and Spy, well, that's just Darwinism at work. You can't fix that. But I'm thinking also, and I used the example of stairs in my last vlog. 1,000 people odd have died in accidents on stairs in the UK last year. And people said, oh, but stairs don't kill innocent people, they only kill the people that are using them. And I thought, yeah, that's fair enough. But let's look at knife crime. Knife crime in the UK and around the world. A lot of people use knives in the commission of crimes. And a lot of people get stabbed with knives. And some of those people die. And some of those people are innocent bystanders or people on the wrong end of the knife, right? Now, knives are dangerous, there's no doubt. Probably over the years, tens of thousands of people have died because of the misuse of knives. But we don't have to register knives. You can go and buy a knife from the kitchen store, from your local hardware store. You can go and buy a knife. That knife could kill someone very easily. You don't have to sit an exam to prove that you know how to use a knife safely. No, you buy your knife, go and use it. Now, most countries have laws against carrying knives in public places. You're not allowed to carry a knife without reasonable excuse, a reasonable reason for carrying that knife. And it's the same with drones. You can't just go and fly your drone at the airport. You've got rules to control where you can fly your drone. But if we don't have to register knives that have been responsible for countless deaths, and that anyone can buy, there's no age restriction or anything like that, why do we have to register drones? And if we don't have to prove that we can use a knife safely, why do we have to prove we can use a drone safely? Knives have proven to be incredibly dangerous. Drones never killed, or recreational multi-rotor drones never killed anybody. And you notice I was very careful to say recreational multi-rotor drones, because model aircraft have killed people. But I mean, we're talking over a huge amount of time and a very few fatalities. But for the time being, we can say that recreational multi-rotor drones have never killed anybody. That will probably change. Someone will eventually be killed directly or indirectly as a result of the use of a recreational multi-rotor drone. But even when that happens, that's going to be like one occurrence in over a decade. How many people have died as a result of knives in the past decade? Put things in proportion. Now, what I'm going to do to try and make this more understandable to regulators and to politicians, I'm going to do a video explaining the basics and putting the perspective of the recreational model flying community and also the industry. I'm going to try and make a video which will explain to the politicians and the regulators exactly what they're missing, what they don't understand, what they've neglected to sort of take into account when they've made these regulations. Hopefully that will get the message home. So what I want you to do is to, in the comments on this video, put what you think I should include in that video. You know, I call a spade. I'm pretty blunt. I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to stroke egos. I'm not going to curry favour. I'm just going to tell it like it is. And hopefully I'll get you all to send a link to the video to your local MP, to your regulators. So hopefully they will be guilted into watching the video and they will learn something important. Because today I was told, well, one of the reasons they're going for regulation and all sort of stuff is the security issue. That's the danger. It's a terrorism threat. You know, drones can be used as terror weapons. And I'm thinking, why are you telling me? I wrote a book. Well, I educated the world on this back in 2002, 2001. 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, I tried to convince people, hey, we've got to keep an eye on this off-the-shelf technology because it's becoming dangerous. You can go and buy all the bits you need to build a cruise missile. And everyone went, oh, poo-poo, yeah, right. Well, now they're all worried about it. I was a visionary. I was 15 years early, that's all. But when they say now that, drones, we've got to regulate them and we've got to restrict them because people could use them for terrorist activities, I would also bring another example up. What are we going to do about bicycles? Goodness me, bicycles. I'm sure that more people have died as a result of terrorists riding bicycles with a couple of kilos of Semtex stuffed down their undies and turning themselves into human bombs than have died as a result of the use of recreational drones for terror purposes. Don't you think? But we don't regulate bicycles. We don't require people to register their bicycles. We don't require them to sit an exam before they can ride their bicycles or buy a bicycle. So again, we're looking at problems that don't exist. And it's the hysteria the media has created. That's why I want to debunk the hysteria. Give our politicians and our regulators some sensible information that they can use to make sensible regulations. But I can only do it if you guys are going to back me up. Give me some more ideas and send these links out to these people, the decision makers. They need to be informed. If they're ill-informed, then you get bad regulation, don't you? And as I said, in some cases, I think that this having a written exam before you're allowed to fly your drone is a good thing because, again, we've got to look at the problem. The problem is not the traditional model aircraft flyer, the person who's been out there flying model aircrafts for decades, like me. Over 50 years I've been flying model aircraft. Probably over 55 years I've been flying model aircraft. I've never killed anybody. I've never injured anybody. I've never damaged any third-party property. So why am I suddenly being treated like that's exactly what I'm going to do? Well, no. What we need to do is to convince regulators that there are two players in this whole theatre. We have the idiots that go and buy store-bought drones or buy them off eBay or off the internet, bring them home, plug them in and go fly them without even reading the manual. And they can do that now because the technology has changed dramatically. These days, you can get yourself a Phantom 4 or a Mavic Pro or any of these really, good little drones with a built-in GPS and accelerometers and gyros, and you don't need to know how to fly. You just need to plug it in and up it goes, and you can use your smartphone, for goodness sake. So there's no skill involved or no requirement to be trained to fly the things. That's where the problem occurs, because in the past, if you wanted to learn to fly a model aircraft, you had to go and find someone who knew how to do it, and they'd help you build a model, and then they'd train you to fly it. And at the same time, they're giving you the safety tips and things. So when you were able to fly, you already knew what was right, what was wrong. It doesn't happen these days when you buy a drone off eBay, or Amazon. You just take it out and fly it. So the people who are flying the RTF easy to fly stuff, they are the problem. Not all of them, but some of them are the problem. They don't understand the rules and regulations. They don't understand the dangers and the risks that they pose to other people. These people need to be educated. But the guy that goes and buys an AXN and a Turnigy 9XR or a FrSky Taranis, puts it together in 20 minutes, goes out, he's not the problem. I haven't seen any reports of near misses between AXNs or multiplex Fun Cubs or Radjet 800s and airliners. Have you? I haven't. The near misses seem to be between Phantoms and other multi-rotor drones, traditionally store-bought multi-rotor drones. So why are the regulators assuming that an AXN and a Fun Cub and a whatever is the same as a Phantom 4? Because it absolutely isn't. And if you try and make one set of rules that covers all of them, they're going to be bad rules. They're either going to be overly restrictive on the model flyers, who aren't the problem, and that's what we've got, or they're going to not adequately address the risk posed by the Phantom 4 flyers and the Mavic flyers and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to be convincing trying to convince the regulators and the politicians is that the droners, the problem element, are not the traditional hobby. Therefore, you've got to cut the traditional hobby some slack. You've got to say, you guys aren't a problem. In fact, most of the regulators acknowledge this. They say, but especially when it comes to the national model flying bodies. In the UK, CAA says, the British Model Flying Association is wonderful, I've done all these good things, blah, blah, blah. In America, that's the FAA says, the AMA is great, and Congress even cut them slack and says as long as you fly under AMA rules, then the FAA can't create new rules. And here in New Zealand, the CAA has said that the Model Flying New Zealand is doing a wonderful job. So why, if these national model flying bodies who cater to the interests of traditional model flyers, why, if they're doing such a wonderful job, are they being pinged with the same rules as the idiot droners? It makes no sense. The regulator's saying one thing and doing another thing. So we need to sort them out on that. It seems that some of the regulators, particularly like in Canada and the UK, are now coming under a lot of political pressure from the politicians who really, let's face it, you only go into politics if you're too stupid to get another job of doing something productive, aren't you? Call me a cynic, but that's the way I see it. Politicians, if they really had half a brain, they'd be doing something different, better, more productive for the world. Politicians are, I don't know, I've yet to meet a politician that isn't a complete waste of space. But one day it'll happen, I'm sure. But politicians are putting pressure on regulators to introduce harsher regulations because they've got the Airline Pilots Association saying, we're all going to die. And they've got the media saying, another near miss, people could have died. 10,000 people almost killed last year because of drones. Rubbish, bullshit. But politicians are feeble-minded people, and they're easily swayed by this media and the Pilots Association and things. So they come along to the regulators and say, look, you've got to tighten up because we've got to be seen to be doing something. That's why I'm making a video to educate the politicians as much as can be done, obviously. Hopefully we can sway them as much as the pilots' unions and the Daily Mail. That's really what we're up against. So that's what I plan to do. As I say, put your ideas for things I should be covering into the comments section on this video. I will try and cover them. And yeah, that's about it. Have I got anything else on my list? I don't think I have. I think I've covered it all. So There you go. There'll be some links, as always, in the description. I'll put a link to the Grayson Hobbies video. I'll put a link to Stu's UAV Futures video on the X220S, the Wizard X220S. Both of them have sort of realised that, not quite the glossy little thing, you can't polish this one, but, so it's always good to get lots of other points of view. I'll put a link to the Grammarly.com website and a link to, if I can find it, that story on the guy who decided to slice his fingers up in the Inspire prop and blame the regulations. And I'll also put a link to the TBS video, the video that shows their FLAM-based sensor and avoid system working. Really cool, really, really good. Looks excellent. So there you go. Questions, comments in the usual place, please. And now I've got lots of stuff to do. It's fine, but it's blowing and it's cold because I've got my jacket on, see? That's it. Another vlog. If you've got ideas for the vlog, if you want, if you want it formatted differently or a different perspective, please let me know. And as usual, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. If you can't make your mind up, toss a coin and thumb up one way or the other, because all the thumbs count. Tell people about the vlog, tell them about the channel, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, blah, 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 etc., etc. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.